Hey, what's poppin'? This is Dr. Ben, the Pre-Chiro podcast. And today I'm live with Jim Chester over there in Grand Junction, Colorado. Appreciate you for checking in and serving the students today. So the intention for this podcast is to provide context for what it looks like to become a chiropractor. But knowing you, I know you're not someone who's necessarily gone through the process. You're an honorary chiropractor in many ways. Can you just start off by introducing yourself and letting people know a little bit about your background and what you've been up to in the past years?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, by the way. I just want to acknowledge you for doing such a great job of putting information out for people. And a lot of times, when I tell people about starting content, I tell them to think about the first 100 episodes, not the first 10. So, there's just a little value add from the jump. But as I got into chiropractic was 11 years ago, and I worked in a chiropractic biophysics clinic as a traction tech. And I started to learn about spinal dynamics and biomechanics and the way that the body functions. And, one of the simplest things I could ever teach somebody was like every time that you put your head out and you take a deep breath, you're losing some vital lung capacity. And if you put your head down, you take a breath, you're losing vital lung capacity. But if you put your body back and you breathe, you're actually getting vital lung capacity. So I thought that was one of the first things I actually could understand about chiropractic and the dynamics of the human body. But then I started understanding about like the old brain, the new brain, and the way that the nervous system controls the immune system, and that the organ system's organized and the vertebrae go down. If there's a subluxation, the nerves don't necessarily have to have pain, but the functionality is supposed to be going to an organ, and the gut is where all of the center of our information is stored, and the brain is the top of the spinal cord. So they also say, like, as people age, that the brain starts to decline. Well, that's because the gut's declining and the spine's declining with it. So it's a whole human dynamic thing. Is we got to constantly be feeding it good thoughts. We got to constantly be feeding it good, clean food and keeping it hydrated. So I just kind of understood chiropractic from a whole different level. And we make it easy on people, and we say, hey, check it out. Just drink half your body weight in ounces every day, and cut down on sugar, because we know sugar causes inflammation. Inflammation in the gut causes inflammation in the brain. So, the dynamics of the way that the chiropractic profession was to me was all about the three arcs of life: the cervical, the thoracic, and the lumbar spine. And if we keep those healthy, then we could create healthy people.
Well said. What would you say to a prospective student who's considering becoming a chiropractor? What are some questions they should be asking themselves? And you just did a great job of contextualizing your orientation to chiropractic based on experience of working in a clinic. But what are some things that you've asked yourself before jumping into a program?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know me, this logo that floats above my shoulder is called Chiro Hustle. My context of my content is based on 2 documentary films and over 800 interviews that we've done on the topic of chiropractic. So my tank is a little bit deeper than most people when you think about what chiropractic is as a profession. So I would ask yourselves, where do you want to be in 10 years after you become a chiropractor? And what will you do to create the business of your dreams while taking care of your community? Because the real thing is that chiropractors are like small businesses. They go out of business within 5 years of practice. So if we can learn to keep chiropractors in the business of chiropractic, then we have another soldier out there doing their job, taking care of subluxations. And if we lose a chiropractor, now this is the other side of that. So Dr. Ben, you went to college to be a chiropractor. Now just say you went out there and you practiced for 5 years and you failed. Now what happens is we have a whole failed family. We have a whole culture that said, my kid's going to go to school to be a doctor, a chiropractor. And now what happens is that one person starts selling life insurance. They start selling cars. They start, managing a Best Buy. and they're not a chiropractor anymore. So now we have one soldier that was supposed to go out there and be strong and take care of their community now failed, and now they're doing something that they weren't supposed to because they didn't master the business. And I really believe that when we talk about like what questions to ask, where do you want to be in 10 years, and how will you stop yourself from failing in 5?
So getting out of your own way. We speak to the mastery that you just put in there? I heard you just say the business mastery. What does it mean to be on the path of mastery, right? We never reach a destination. We're continuously walking this path of mastery. Can you elaborate a little bit on how students can get started in beginning to engage themselves in this path?
Well, I would recommend people to follow what Dr. Ben is doing with his reading list, and check out some of the books that he recommends, because knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is actually the most powerful. So when you learn knowledge, accept that, receive it, but then apply it. So, I think the greatest thing anybody could ever do is survey themselves, and say, hey, why do I want to do this? Where do I want to go with this? How much do I want to make? How many people do I want to take care of? How many staff do I want? Where do I want to set up? All these big questions. And then you can reverse engineer it. You can say, okay, I have a goal to get 30 new patients a month. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, now you can set up divisions for yourself to make sure that you're going out there and mastering new patients. When you want to learn adjusting skills, you might want to freshen those up. So put that into another division, and then figure out how you're going to be in your community and community outreach. And that's another division. So I think you have to really get certain on the different divisions that make up what you want and survey yourself. And then you can build those divisions out. You can check in with yourself, and then you can say, okay, so I went to my technique seminar. I got 30 new patients because I joined a BNI group. I joined a young professionals group. I started Facebook ads. I got myself out there. I supported a young, a sports team. I went out there and I shook parents' hands and adjusted kids and, whatever it is. But I think that when you think about business of chiropractic, you have to think about it from a philosophical stance, an adjusting stance, and a longevity stance too. So I think, taking care of the body along that path that's the part I find that most chiropractors that become older in the profession, they forget to take care of themselves, and then they hurt themselves, they burn out, and they don't have any savings. And then the next thing is we have another chiropractic soldier that goes out of business because they weren't taking care of themselves.
Wow. So a lot of what you just described, yes, you talked about adjusting, but you talked about so much more, the community outreach experience, the ability to understand what Facebook ads are, develop a brand, develop a message that's clear for your community. And a lot of this sounds like things that pre-chiro students could do before they even go to chiropractic school. Since you have really studied the science of helping get chiropractic to the people, so to speak, and building that bridge, can you elaborate a little bit on things that you think pretty much any pre-chiro student can begin to engage in, maybe with your channel, maybe with some different things that you've seen that are out there that you would just recommend a student getting started would engage with?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, by the way, because I think that's a part of the conversation that a lot of people don't have the ability to share on. So I know, because I went out and did 600 screen events in 2.5 years. I've run agency for chiropractors. I really believe the greatest thing that a chiropractic student could do is learn how to sell their voice. And I would say do an upstart podcast and take 100 topics that you think would be good and go to anchor.com and get on Anchor and just start producing simple snippets on 100 different topics, publishing those, and get comfortable with your voice and get comfortable with your topics, which develop your skill sets to communicate on different verticals of conversations. And then when you start learning how to sell your voice, then start interviewing other people in your community and putting out a show like this, and start building bridges with people that are running the yoga studios, building bridges with people that are running the natural grocer, building bridges with people that are, the hair salons, the little boutique gyms, and start building bridges with people and telling their story. And then you start building community, and then you start selling your voice. And I really believe that selling your voice, you should go from the mono to the interview, and you should start learning your own voice first and what really the verticals of influence that you can create. And then you start talking to other people and sharing their voice. And that's where we're at in 2020 is we're in an information age. And the more that you brand your voice, the more that you brand with your community, that's something anybody can do.
Yeah, listen to that back, because that was a step-by-step on action steps that you can take right now as a pre-Chiro student to begin to develop your teaching abilities. As a doctor, you're a teacher. As a chiropractor, you have to share a message that's unfamiliar with your community, and you have to develop the courage and the experience of what it's like to deliver that message. And I think what you just described there, Jim, is a perfect way for a student to really look within, because what you were just describing was building bridges. That comes from you. That comes from you recognizing, okay, what are the places that I shop at? Where do I go to eat? Who do I go to get my hair cut from? Which gym do I go to? And just connecting with those places after you've done the work of developing your voice and clarity on your message. So thank you.
Yeah. And the other thing, Dr. Ben, is people can go in and join like a BNI group as a student. They can join a young professionals networking group as a student.
What's BNI for those that don't know?
It's called Business Network International. And something that a lot of people don't know is people talk about like a chiropractic, like management group, or they talk about like a networking group. Well, BNI is the largest chiropractic networking group in the world because there's a chiropractor in every chapter. And if you think about like networking groups, you think maybe like 100. Well, there's like, I don't know, thousands of BNI chapters. So this is the largest, like, but they only allow one chiropractor in per group. So that's like really important for chiros to get into, because I think that becomes a leads group. And I that's where you start building your community influence. And I'm not saying unless you like it, do it for more than like 2 to 5 years. But if you get into business, you can build a solid business off of a group like that, Business Network International, and you can use that as one of your verticals of influence. And I really believe that a student can jump into there, or they can join a young professionals networking group. And now you can start telling the chiropractic story. And if you think about like getting into clinic and you have numbers to get met at a certain time for how many adjustments you have, you're going to blow that out of the water, because all those people, they're going to believe in you, they're going to love you, they're going to trust you, and they're going to come into clinic and you're going to adjust them and you're going to turn their lights on. And now that has a whole different impact on their community and their family and your skill sets and your certainty.
You've used the term vertical of influence 2 or 3 different times in this interview. Can you talk about what that construct is and how chiropractic students or pre-chiropractic students thinking of going to chiropractic school can see that as a value builder?
Yeah. So in chiropractic, they have the triune, science, philosophy, and art. And when you understand the triune, now you understand the 3 verticals of chiropractic. And then you can start thinking about the verticals of the 3 T's: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And if you start to correlate the verticals of what makes chiropractic, and then you start to build little tributaries off of those topics, now you start to understand certainty and powerful aspect of a vertical. And then all of you, that's basically, your dynamics of communication will come off all of those topic channels. So those are the 3 verticals of chiropractic: science, philosophy, and art. And everything that you'll talk about for the rest of your career will be a tributary off of one of those topics.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as a student, just to apply that to your situation right now, think through the different questions that you've asked of yourself in the context of what is the science of chiropractic, what is the philosophy of chiropractic, what is the art of chiropractic, and then take each of those questions and develop a little 1 to 3 minute video or write a blog post. And these become little silos. So if you think of a trunk of a tree, these are branches off of that tree. And that's how you create an infrastructure for a website. That's how you create a YouTube channel or an Instagram channel. You build a list of topics that you're interested in learning more about. You do the research, you do the introspection, you ask yourself those questions. And then from experience, hopefully, you're able to give something of value to the audience that you're sharing it with. And it sounds like, Jim, you've been doing that for a while now. So can you talk about what 800 interviews with different chiropractors or non-chiropractors about the topic of chiropractic or things that relate to chiropractic have really shown you about the profession, the diversity within the profession, and the different paths that people take within this great profession?
I think that there's a lot to be said about what we've been doing over the past 11 years, me working in the office for 5.5 years, me going out and doing 600 screenings for 2.5 years, us creating 2 chiropractic documentaries over the past 5 years, and then us creating over 800 interviews, like you just mentioned, over the past 3 years. I've learned a great deal about where the profession came from, where we are today, where the profession is going. And I think the most important thing I could tell anybody in the chiropractic profession, whether pre-chiro or in chiro, is to build a community of chiropractic and support each other and, learn from each other. And maybe it's not your practice that you want, but don't judge how somebody else built the practice that they want. Because what they probably did is they probably looked at the business structure that they wanted, and that's how they developed their practice model. So I think there's a lot to learn when I've interviewed so many people. And if I went to 5 chiropractors today, I would get it checked and adjusted 5 different ways by 5 different doctors. So that being said, we have to be more inclined to go back to the historical standard of what chiropractic is, that it corrects vertebral subluxation. And that knowing that that's the major premise of chiropractic is to check and to adjust, that everybody that becomes an artist of chiropractic and a doctor of chiropractic will do it a little bit different. And they're going to find a technique that's best for their body type and their hands and their skill sets. And that's really what I think, that as I've talked to so many people, that there's so many different techniques. Number one, there's so many different ways to apply. I mean, you can do like a thermography scan, you can do x-rays, you can do leg checks, you can do nuclear films. I mean, there's so many different ways to check for misalignment of the spinal column. I say learn the best and have the most certainty in your approach and go to work, have fun, and take care of people.
After speaking and getting exposure to so many elements within chiropractic, how can you envision an elevation of the standards, not only within care expectations from the general public, where if you go to a chiropractic office, there are some minimal standards of care that we would like to see every chiropractic office live up to, potentially, if they're calling it chiropractic. Maybe not. This is an open-ended question, but in regards to standards of education, how could pre-chiropractic students arrive at chiropractic school and really lift up the academic standards, maybe, but definitely the chiropractic standards?
I think that's a really well-rounded question. And as I've talked to so many people that are coaches and so many people that are have their own movements and try to set themselves apart, I think when it comes to the education standard and how we can have a standard of practice across the board, that's a real challenging thing. And I think first things first is we have to nurture the college experience and knowing that it's a chiropractic profession and it's not a medical profession. I think it's really wise to have a firm foundation in medical knowledge. Being a doctor, I think that that's a requisite. To be a great practitioner, you have to understand anatomy and physiology and biomechanics for sure. But you also have to understand the anatomy of the spine better than anything. And you have to understand that the way that the body tracks the nervous system, tracks the organ system, and understand those things I said on the original part of the interview. The body is very dynamic. And when it comes to like the education system, it's very dynamic as well. And I think it all starts with leadership, and the people that are making policy within the schools. I think we have to nurture those people, and we have to, bring them back into alignment and say, look, I understand that we have a certain level of responsibility to pass these things called board exams, but board exams don't make good adjusters, and board exams don't make good philosophers, and board exams don't create certainty of the practitioner. And you can be the most lost person out there and pass a board exam and not know how to run a business. And you can be the most lost person out there that can pass a board exam that can't build community. So these things I'm talking about, the nuances of building a community and bridging and going in verticals, those things are the parts that need to be put back into the education standards. Is you should learn how to run a podcast. You should learn how to create a Facebook ad. You should learn how to create micro content. You should learn how to do some certain things of communications, because one of the things I heard most from all the leaders is you have to become a good communicator if you're going to be a good chiropractor. So standards of clinic excellence, I'm not exactly sure. I've never run a clinic per se, but I would tell you that knowing that you have an opportunity to bring somebody in, you should do a full exam. You should do a consultation. I believe in x-ray. I think everybody deserves to get x-rayed. I don't care if you're in chiropractic care or not, but you should have an x-ray of your spine. I'm so crazy. I think that people should have a hologram of the x-ray of their spine on their driver's license so people know what their spinal health is, so that teaches you what a really healthy person looks like. And we'd have a whole lot more knowledge on what real health was if they knew what their spine looked like on an x-ray. People would live a whole lot different. So I think just knowledge on the education, knowing that you're investing $250,000 into becoming smart and educated and become a doctor, you should take a real value in learning about that too, and knowing why finances matter as you go forward, and knowing why student loan is one of those things that you have to become very well educated on.
Definitely. Great advice. Whew. So
I know I'm like a fire hose, bro.
No, I mean, it's good. Like at the end of the day, chiropractic students, pre-chiropractic students, we're really just trying to build up their understanding of what it looks like to become a chiropractor. And there's not enough information out there that is packaging it in the way that you're really helping people orient. So I just want to thank you for sharing your perspective. Speak to me a little bit about what the future holds for the projects that you're working on, and how you aim to build greater infrastructure for the student experience in chiropractic education, because you're not somebody who's just talking about it, you're actually being about it right now. You're doing things that, when well organized with the student in mind, can really make their experience a lot like higher quality, but also a lot more polishing of their skills. So what is of most importance to you right now? What are you most focused on?
Well, I really want to connect the dots with the leaders in the profession. And, 10 years ago, I told everybody I'm going to be the most powerful person in chiropractic. And I'm not a chiropractor, but I think that being in the media control is the most powerful position to be in chiropractic, because the practitioners are trying to make it as a clinic. But I really think, as I develop in this profession, I'm going to become the most well-connected, have the deepest pockets of relationship capital. And everywhere I go, I'm planting chiropractic trees. So I just feel like, if you could give me like a likeness, it would be the Johnny Appleseed of chiropractic. And I think that everywhere I go, people know that that's the brand I support. And I really believe in the future of natural healing. I think more people than ever are going to be interested in ways to have preventative care and the ways to actually have full body functionality rather than sickness and infirmary. And I think that nobody ever wants to go down the path of finding a loved one that's sick. And I come from Iowa, and I know that people, when they have a loved one that gets sick, they'll sell the farm to keep somebody healthy. Well, why don't we nurture the farm and keep us all healthy? And I think that that's what we have to really think about with what I'm doing. my goal is to create over 1,000 podcasts on chiropractic and to keep on connecting the dots for the future and to teach chiropractors how to sell their voice and how to actually have a functioning, thriving practice that isn't in the idea of wanting, because wanting equals lack. If you go back pre-1940s and you look in the English dictionary for the word want, it has like 40 different responses to the word want, and most of them have to do with lack. Want is really one of those words that has a fundamental lackness to it. So people want to make more money. They want more new patients. What you're really telling the universe is, I lack new patients. I lack money. So you have to really be careful with self-talk and semantics as well. But yeah, I think, as I develop and become more of an influence for the media of chiropractic, I would like to see a whole army of chiro students that run chapters of Chiro Hustle at their schools. And I would like to see the things I talked about earlier about building the brand, build that for the school. Go out there and say, hey, this is Jim Chester coming to you from Palmer College of Chiropractic. I'm interviewing the guy that runs the box down the street called CrossFit. Hey, what's up, dude? How are things going? Tell me about how you got started. Tell me about the community that you serve. Tell me about where your vision is. How can we make a healthier community together? Well, hey, my name is Jim Chester. I'm over there at Palmer College. And if you have any needs or you have somebody you think would benefit from the things that I shared today, send them on over to me. I'd love to help them. So I think just knowing that is where the future is going, is community involvement and selling the voice.
Yes, there's such an interconnectivity between who we are and the community that we have, but we don't necessarily see it. It's invisible. But once we start to be able to create things so that it becomes visible, now all of a sudden people can see chiropractic as a brand or as a entity, so to speak, is connected to all of these things that are connected to wellness, to taking care of yourself, to promoting your health, to natural healing, to sustainable living. So I really like that vision, man. And I got to say, I did a little research yesterday, and hashtag pre-med is at 700,000 hashtags. Hashtag pre-PT is around 350,000. Hashtag pre-Chiro, as of today, I'm happy to say we just passed 100. I've done 25 in the last couple of days, but I want to just encourage you with the podcast that you're doing to really share it in the name of pre-Chiro, because I believe that that's the biggest subluxation that we have right now, is that other professions see the importance of educating the younger generations. And if you're a student in the younger generation and you haven't heard about pre-Chiro and this is your first time hearing about it today, recognize that it's going to gain popularity as we have greater awareness that it exists. There hasn't been a lot of proactive action taking place on behalf of all of these leaders in the profession who have so much gifts to share, who are so inspiring to observe, that if my belief is that if you knew what we knew, you would be wanting to do what we do. And Jim Chester, I thank you so much for creating the content. And now we just need to magnetize the right audiences to that content so that it can really reach the people that I think you designed it for, which is those that are really just looking for passion, purpose, fulfillment, and wanting to see role models, wanting to see examples of people who embody the same thing that they're looking for out of life. And I think that the media that you're creating is going to be really valuable. And let's join forces in regards to supporting these pre-Chiro clubs as they sprout up on different college campuses. Let's get chiropractors onto university campuses. Let's get some policy change created where chiropractic becomes part of the healthcare system on these college campuses. Because if you're a student that's hungover, should you be really going to take a pill to get over that hangover, or should you maybe be going to consider getting adjusted? Well, the choice is yours. My point is, though, is that there should be a choice. And right now, there really isn't a choice. There's just a clear, one option, and
well, you brought up some interesting strategies, and I really believe that in the future, like I said, I would like to have a Chiro Hustle rep on all campuses, because as they're bringing more medical minded strategies into chiropractic campuses, we need to bring the science of philosophy and art back onto the campus. And I really the reason we started Chiro Hustle was to keep free speech alive in the profession. And I believe that I protect the sacred trust, like all these people that are banging the drums say they do. But a non-Chiro is actually protecting the sacred trust greater than most people in this profession. And I have no hidden agendas other than the fact that I want to get the information to be disseminated for the beautiful profession of chiropractic. And I saw no one else like doing it the right way. All I saw was a bunch of chiropractors bickering about what one was doing or what one wasn't doing. And I just took the keys to the kingdom off the wall and I said, I'll take these. And that's what I did is I saw them neglecting what was most important, which was the media. And everybody else was trying to run ads and everybody else was trying to get clout on Instagram. And I was like, nope, we're going to start talking the tick. We're going to start telling stories, because the old school people that you guys are watching this that are students, you're going to realize that the old school influences would always say, tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. And that they were bandstanding that message. And that's why I knew what we were doing with Hustle was going to create a movement, and it was going to become new school telling the story. And I think that that's what we have to do is we have to become adaptable with the times. And it's not the seminars that's going to change chiropractic. No. It's the podcasting. It's the selling your voice.
Yeah, if you have time, go check out the interview that I did on the Chiro Hustle podcast, where I shared my vision for pre-Chiro with Jim and really went deep on why I believe that it's the most important thing for the profession moving forward, that we invest in the future generation of students. So yeah, Jim, thank you so much. Keep doing what you do, brother. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Any last words you want to share? Give people contact information, let them know how they can link with you, and just give them one last message of why or why not they should consider becoming a chiropractor one day.
One of my mentors one time told me, stop taking what people give you and start taking what you want. You have to become vigilant for what you want. And if you just have your hand out, you'll never learn what it is like to earn something. So use your hands to earn, and use your body to learn, and just keep on, building your community around you. And I really believe that the greatest gift you can ever give somebody is the chiropractic adjustment. So becoming a master at that. But here's the last thing I'll say. Best known beats best every day. So you can be the best adjuster in the world, but if people don't know about you, you're going to have the best hands that don't see people. So you have to become the best known and the best adjuster. And I think that that's probably what way I can close out today is become the best known in your community and become the best adjuster. And if you have those things going for you, you're just going to be going to the bank.
To the bank. Hey, what are some episodes that you can reflect on that are really relevant for the pre-Chiro students? If you can just throw a couple of different ones off of the top of your head of conversations that are really speaking to that generation.
Wow. I would say people that I feel like have a great message for the students, I would go check out Tim Young's episode of Chiro Hustle. I would say go check out Neil Cohn at Sherman College's episode of Chiro Hustle. Yeah, I think, I don't want to give too much input asphasia to people. So just go check out Tim Young and Neil Cohn.
Okay.
And you'll walk away with some resources that are going to bridge you into other episodes. And I would say just listen to the first 10 minutes of every Chiro Hustle, and you're going to hear every chiropractor story of why they got into chiropractic. And that will give you enough spiz, if you want to call it that. That'll give you enough vision as to what chiropractors that we've interviewed happened to them and what their big why is and why they got into the profession and where they are today. So listen to the first 10 minutes of all those episodes of Chiro Hustle, and you'll learn so much about the profession that all these people will mentor you without even knowing that they're mentoring you.
No doubt. Check out the Chiro Hustle podcast. Thank you for tuning into the pre-Chiro podcast. And we're going to keep delivering you fresh content on a regular basis to make your experience more enjoyable. Thank you so much, Jim. Take care, man. Have a good day.
Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for having me on today. It's an honor.
No doubt, brother.